Hello. The topic for today's debate is within the next decade, web based application and cloud computing will almost entirely replace personal computing. We will be speaking against this motion. Personal cloud may seem like a good and cheaper alternative to personal desktop computing, but it has a lot of drawbacks which are difficult to look beyond. There are many cloud services that are available which try to mimic the functionalities of a personal computer, like Google Docs for MS Word, Dropbox for local storage, and cloud-based Photoshop for Element 5. But the user satisfaction leaves much to be desired for. Cloud-based computing can be unreliable as they are dependent on the internet connectivity. If there is loss or any fluctuation of internet connection, it affects the functioning of these cloud-based services. Although cloud service providers implement the best security standards and industry certification, data and important files on external service provider always open up risks. Using cloud powered technologies means you need to provide your service provider with access to important business data. This can give nefarious users ability to scan, identify, and exploit loopholes and vulnerabilities. Although service providers promise that the cloud will be flexible, to use and integrate switching cloud services is something that hasn't been completely evolved. For example, the services that are created on Amazon Web Services cannot be used on Microsoft Azure. But on the same hand, if something is created on a Windows based platform, may or may not be used on a Mac iOS. Organizations may find it difficult to migrate their services from one vendor to another. This also throws up interoperability and support issues. Application for Windows architecture might not work on Linux. Now my teammate Dipanshu Pawar will be taking over.
Okay, so the question is cloud computing really that good? The answer is no. Hi, my name is Dipanshu Pawar, and I have some background before on mainframe computers. So I just want to tell you something about this with respect to cloud computing. So cloud computing here is since last decade, but after all the promises, it just couldn't replace mainframe computers yet. There must be a reason for the same. The reason is mainframe gives you result almost in real time. Mainframe computers can process millions of transactions per second, while over cloud this number is still in thousands. Mainframe is still a irreplaceable giant in insurance and banking industries. I personally have background in insurance industry, so I can tell you that I'm pretty sure about that. And also experts think that it will remain be there for at least next 2 decades. Um, so cloud computing is evolving, but so are the others. Uh, for example, if we talk about big firms, IBM has launched Z10 mainframe computers just last year. This computer can support mobile computing, also the Linux operating system and other operating systems as well. On the if we talk about personal computers, power is the computing power with respect to the price is going down. Few years back, we had like i3, we had P3, P4, and these computers. These computers were very costly, but nowadays i7 can give us more computing power as well as more RAM, and the price is also less. So uh, why we choose cloud computing if we can all this we can have this power and computing power and external hard disks, all RAMs, all this in our personal computers. Now my friend Dhanvi will continue.
Thank you, Dipanshu. Hi everyone, this is Dhanvi Komanduri. So we all use web applications, which is nothing but software as service in cloud for different features. But there are few such applications which cannot replace the stable existing software that is used on the desktop. Some of such examples are Photoshop Express and Google Docs. The Photoshop that we install in our system, it offers a lot more features that can make your photos look much better. This is the same in case of Microsoft Office. Like for example, when you're presenting PowerPoint slides, I would prefer Microsoft using Microsoft Office over Google Docs. Similarly, there are few other drawbacks in clouds, and I'm going to discuss a few of them. We'll start with limited control. Since the cloud infrastructure is entirely owned and managed by service providers, it transfers minimal control to the customers. The customers can only manage the applications, that is data and services that is operated on top of the application, but they do not have any control on the backend of the on the backend infrastructure. Key administrative tasks are also not passed down to end users and customers. Another such drawback is data loss. Theoretically speaking, data that is stored in cloud is safe and secure, but on the off chance that the data goes missing, you have no local backup unless you download all the cloud documents. But in today's world, hardly anyone does this. Then the next point is lack of insight into network. Cloud computing companies provide access to data like CPU, RAM, and disk utilization. But just think once how minimal your insight becomes into your network. If it is a bug in your code or a hardware problem, without recognizing the issue, it is impossible to fix. Another such drawback is lack of support. Cloud-based services do not always provide support to the customer. The vendors are not available on email or phone and want the customers to depend on the FAQ pages and online community for support. Sometimes the queries posted by the users are not answered for days together. This impedes with the work of the user. In case he requires some kind of support, he has to wait for a person to read his query and then post on it. Even I have faced such issues while using cloud applications. Due to this, complete transparency is never offered. Another drawback is incompatibility. Sometimes there are problems of software incompatibility on the application that we are using. As some application tools require particular hardware or some particular software prerequisites, it provides some incompatibility and connectivity issues when trying to access those applications. Now my teammate Snehanshu is going to speak on complexity.
Hi everyone, my name is Snehanshu Shankar. I'm going to talk on the complexity in the cloud computing. There is no doubt that the cloud technology have provided us the ability to build more fault-tolerant, high-performance, cost-effective, and feature-rich solutions than we have in the personal computing. But at the same time, they also brought a downside with them, which is complexity. Recent stats shows that 90% of organizations nowadays that are consuming infrastructure as a service are not able to do it properly due to complexity involved and several other factors. Most of the systems nowadays which are designed using various heterogeneous technologies, so in all those systems, integration of these technologies on cloud is like very challenging and complex task in itself. And it generally requires a large learning curve and proper training to integrate it, efficiently. Despite the benefits, bringing more and more services on cloud could also become an overhead for the IT or development teams. Because nowadays most companies follow service-oriented architecture while developing their applications, and building microservices for an individual independent uh, job task, which proliferates on the cloud servers as the functionality in the system grows. So now the interaction between these independent microservices deployed on multiple servers on cloud in different regions is usually become very complex to maintain and execute. So the architecture and overall strategy of designing and developing such systems on cloud needs to be reviewed properly by subject matter expert in the first place. So on such occasion, running services on cloud could also become more expensive than running services in your own data center. Also, providing a common abstraction interface to access all these services and retrieving data might jeopardize latency in case of low network bandwidth. So, the success of a project highly depends upon implementation and handling of such complexities while developing your software systems. Thank you.